On his way home before a brutal winter storm, veteran Travis Bellamy passed an abandoned gas station and saw stray dogs surrounding a wounded mother dog and her puppy. The mother dog tried to fight them off, but she was too weak to keep protecting her pup alone. Travis stepped into the snow, drove the pack away, and brought both dogs back to his cabin. The mother dog was afraid of human hands, but the puppy trusted him first. The next day, Travis learned that healthy dogs had been disappearing from Red Hollow. Soon, he realized the mother dog and her puppy had escaped from a dog theft ring using fake pet transport papers. With the police and the mother dog's help, Travis set a trap to expose the thieves. Where are you watching from? And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Travis Bellamy had learned long ago that winter did not arrive all at once. It warned a man in small, unfriendly ways first. The air went flat. The trees stopped creaking before the wind truly came. Sound traveled strangely over snow, as if the world were holding its breath and listening for what would break next. That evening, driving his old pickup down the county road north of Red Hollow, Travis felt all of it before the radio said a word. The storm was still a few hours out by the official report, but official reports were written by people who watched weather from rooms with heat. Travis watched it through a cracked windshield, through the twitch of pine branches along the roadside, through the way loose snow was already sliding sideways across the asphalt like pale smoke. He had spent the day at a dairy farm 12 miles east, coaxing a dying generator back to life while the farmer cursed the cold and the cows steamed in the barn like ghosts. His hands still smelled faintly of diesel and copper wire. His shoulders ached from leaning over a metal housing in sub-zero wind. All he wanted was the narrow road to his cabin, the black stove, coffee gone bitter on the burner, and a room where no one expected anything from him. The radio crackled again, the announcer's voice thin under static, warning of whiteout conditions, falling temperatures, and unnecessary travel. Travis gave the dashboard a glance that was almost a smile. Unnecessary travel. Most of his life had been built out of things somebody else decided were necessary. Now he chose silence when he could, distance when he could, and the kind of work that let a man fix what was broken without having to explain why he understood broken things so well. He was 47, broad through the shoulders, still built like a man who had once carried too much and learned not to complain about the weight. His face was angular and weathered, with a strong jaw, pale lines at the eyes, and blue-gray eyes that looked colder than he meant them to. The old olive canvas jacket across his chest had been patched twice at the elbow. His boots were dark with road salt. The watch on his left wrist had a scratched face and kept time badly, but he wore it anyway because some habits survived when better memories did not. He took the shortcut past the abandoned Sinclair station because it shaved 7 minutes off the drive home, maybe 10 if the snow stayed light. The place had been empty for years, a low concrete shell with boarded windows, a collapsed canopy, and 2 rusted pumps standing like markers for a grave. Locals used a lot to turn around when the plows blocked the road. Teenagers had once spray-painted the side wall, but even they had stopped coming after the roof over the service bay began to sag. Travis usually passed it without looking. That night, his headlights caught movement behind the pumps. At first he thought it was a deer. Then the shape separated in the sweeping beam, too low, too quick, too many. Travis eased off the gas. Snow hissed beneath the tires. His headlights slid across the back lot and found a ring of dogs near the cracked wall of the old service building. Not 1 or 2 strays. A pack. Lean winter bodies, rough coats, heads low, tails stiff. They were not barking wildly. That would have been easier to read. They were circling with a silent patience that made Travis's hands tighten on the wheel. At the center of the ring stood a German shepherd female, big-framed but gaunt from exhaustion, her black and deep sable coat clotted with snow along the shoulders. One ear stood sharp, the other had a ragged nick at the edge. Her legs trembled badly, and dark marks showed through the fur along her shoulder and flank, but she held herself between the pack and a puppy backed against the broken concrete. The puppy was all oversized paws and terror, black and tan, maybe 4 months old, one ear half raised and the other folded soft against its head. It was pressed so tightly to the wall that it seemed to be trying to disappear into it. The mother dog lunged when one of the strays came too close, but the movement cost her. Her hind leg faltered. The pack saw it. Travis saw it too. For one breath, he did nothing. Not because he did not understand what he was seeing, but because understanding was exactly the problem. A man alone could drive on. A man alone could tell himself animals fought, and animals died, and winter had always made hard rules. He had no family waiting at the cabin, no dog bowl by the stove, no reason to bring blood and fear into the only quiet place he owned. He had survived by learning which doors not to open. But then the puppy lifted its head into the headlights. It did not bark. It did not run. It simply stared toward the truck with a kind of small, stunned hope that had no defense in it at all. Travis swore under his breath and threw the pickup into park. The horn blared once, long and brutal, tearing through the lot. Several dogs jumped back. Travis hit the high beams, then the auxiliary lamps mounted above the bumper, flooding the abandoned station in hard white light. He grabbed the emergency flare from the door pocket, stepped out into the biting wind, and slammed the truck door with enough force to sound like a shot. "Go on!" he shouted, voice rough from cold and disuse. The pack scattered a few yards but did not leave. Hunger made cowards stubborn. Travis lit the flare. Red fire snapped alive in his gloved hand, throwing smoke and sparks into the blowing snow. He moved forward slowly, not running, not giving the pack the panic it wanted. With his other hand he reached into the bed of the truck and pulled out the iron pry bar he used on frozen generator housings. The nearest dog bared its teeth. Travis lowered his voice. "You don't want this." Maybe it understood nothing. Maybe it understood the tone. Maybe the flare was enough. He swung the burning light outward and the red glow cut across the dog's eyes. One broke first, then another. The mother shepherd used the moment to turn her head toward the puppy, checking, always checking. That was what undid him more than the wounds did. She was barely standing, but every remaining ounce of her belonged to the small life behind her. The pack retreated in pieces, vanishing behind the pumps, under the broken canopy, through the drifted weeds at the edge of the lot. Travis did not trust them gone. He kept the flare high and the pry bar low until the last shadows slipped into the trees. Only then did he turn toward the two shepherds. The mother dog changed instantly. Her lips peeled back. A low growl came from somewhere deep in her chest, not loud, but serious. Travis stopped 10 feet away. "Easy," he said. His voice sounded strange in that place, too human for the cold. "I'm not here to take him." The word "him" came out before he knew the puppy was male. The puppy answered before the mother did. It took one shaking step forward, then another, slipping on the snow, eyes fixed on Travis's face. "No," Travis murmured, mostly to himself. "Don't make this harder." The puppy kept coming. It was trembling so violently that its legs seemed built out of wire. When it reached him, it lifted both front paws and set them against his boot, not climbing, not playing, but begging with the only language it had left. The mother dog gave a strained, broken sound. She tried to move after it and nearly collapsed. Travis crouched slowly, keeping the pry bar in the snow beside him, palm open. The puppy sniffed his glove, then pressed its muzzle into his hand as if he had been expected all along. Something tightened behind Travis's ribs. He had known men who prayed with less trust than that. "All right," he whispered. "All right, little one." He looked past the puppy to the mother. Up close, the damage was clearer but not worse than his fear had made it. Bites, exhaustion, shock, cold working its way in. Bad, but maybe not final. She watched every inch of him. Her amber-brown eyes were not wild in the simple sense. They were intelligent, furious, afraid, and full of judgment. She had known hands before. She had not liked what they brought. Travis took off his canvas jacket, feeling the cold bite through his dark t-shirt at once, and held the jacket out low where she could see it. "I know," he said, though he did not know enough. "I know you don't want me close. But the storm's coming, and he can't stay here. Neither can you." The mother dog's growl deepened when he took one step. The puppy turned back, went to her, touched its nose to her cheek, then returned halfway toward Travis as if pleading with both sides of a war. That small negotiation, trembling in the snow between fear and faith, was what made Travis set the flare down and move with the patience of a man defusing something alive. He slid the jacket over the mother dog's shoulders rather than reaching first for her wounds. She flinched, snapped once at the air near his wrist, then stopped when the puppy pressed under her chin. Travis saw the collar then. Not a normal collar. It had been cut or torn, the edge ragged, part of the strap missing. Beneath it, the fur around her neck was worn down in a narrow ring, the skin marked by an old pressure line. Not from tonight. Not from stray dogs. Something metal caught the flare light under the thick fur. He gently moved the broken strap with 2 fingers, ready to pull back if she struck. A small tag hung twisted against her neck, bent almost flat, stamped with partial letters and numbers he could not yet read. His stomach lowered in a way he did not like. The wind came harder then, pushing snow across the lot in a sudden sheet. The old station creaked behind them. Somewhere beyond the service bay, a loose piece of tin hammered once, then again, sounding too much like a door in the dark. The mother dog heard it, and changed. Her eyes cut past Travis, past the pumps, toward the narrow service road behind the abandoned building. Her body tried to rise under the jacket, not toward the pack, not toward the woods where the strays had gone, but toward that road. Fear moved through her so sharply that the puppy pressed flat to the snow. Travis followed her stare. Nothing was there except glowing white, the skeletal shape of the old storage shed, and a strip of darkness where the road curved behind the station. Still, the back of his neck tightened. He had trusted that feeling in worse places than Minnesota. "You came from there," he said quietly. The dog did not look at him. She kept watching the road as if something might return on tires. Travis made his decision without making it dramatic. He lifted the puppy first, tucking the small shaking body inside his open shirt against the heat of his chest. The puppy did not fight. The mother dog did, but weakly, more protest than force now. Travis used the jacket as a sling, careful of her hind leg and shoulder, grunting once as he lifted her. She was heavier than her condition suggested, all bone and muscle and stubborn will. She growled against his sleeve the whole way to the truck, but she did not bite. He laid her across the folded moving blanket on the passenger side floor and set the puppy beside her. The puppy immediately crawled against her chest. Travis shut the door, went back for the flare and pry bar, and took one last look at the abandoned station. The red flare hissed low in the snow, painting the pumps, the broken canopy, and the boarded service bay in a color too close to warning. Near the wall where the mother dog had stood, there were scuffed tracks, paw marks, and something else half filled by fresh snow, tire grooves too clean and too recent for a place no one used. Travis stared at them until the wind blurred their edges. Then he got into the truck and turned the heater toward the dogs. As the pickup rolled back onto the road, the mother dog lifted her head with a strength she should not have had. She looked out the rear window, not at the scattered shadows of the feral pack, but at the service road behind the old gas station. Travis glanced down at the bent metal tag now caught against the torn collar. A few characters showed through dried snow and matted fur, NPT 47. He did not know what they meant. He only knew tags like that were not made by accident, and fear like hers did not come from a pack of hungry strays alone. The storm closed behind the truck, swallowing the station until it became nothing but darkness and white, but Travis kept seeing the road behind it, and the way the dog had watched it as if the worst thing in the night had not yet arrived. By the time Travis Bellamy reached the turnoff to his cabin, the storm had stopped pretending it was still on its way. Snow came hard across the windshield in white ropes, thick enough that the road appeared only in short broken pieces between the sweep of the wipers. The pickup climbed the last half-mile through black spruce and frozen birch, tires grinding over old ruts filled with new powder, the engine working low and stubborn beneath the hood. On the passenger side floor, the mother German shepherd lay wrapped in his canvas jacket, her body too still except for the faint rise and fall beneath the fabric. The puppy had wedged himself against her chest, small head tucked under her jaw, one folded ear flattened by fear and warmth. Travis kept glancing down even though the road demanded all of him. He did not like the sound of her breathing. It was not the open, easy pant of a tired dog. It was controlled, guarded, as if even pain had to pass through her on permission. The cabin appeared out of the storm as a square of darker shadow beneath snow-heavy pines. It was not much to come home to: one room downstairs, a loft he rarely used, a narrow porch with warped boards, a shed full of engine parts, and enough firewood stacked under tin to get through a bad week if the wind did not turn cruel. He parked close to the porch, left the headlights on, and sat for half a second with both hands on the wheel. The habit was old. Before leaving a vehicle, count what mattered: weather, distance, light, sound, exits, injury. He looked down at the dogs. The puppy blinked up at him. The mother did not. "All right," Travis said, not because it was true, but because sometimes a voice had to become true before anything else could follow. Getting them inside took longer than it should have. The puppy came easily, once Travis opened his jacket and let the little body press against his chest for warmth. He was lighter than he looked, all legs, ribs, and trembling trust. The mother was another matter. She came awake the instant Travis reached for her, eyes flaring amber in the dim cab light, lips lifting just enough to show him she still had choices left. "I know," he said quietly. "I'd bite too." He did not try to pick her up barehanded. He used the jacket like a sling, moving slowly, keeping her head free, letting her see each shift before he made it. Even then she growled from the truck to the porch, low and exhausted but not empty. The sound scraped along the storm, a warning dragged up from the last room of her strength. Travis accepted it as fair. At the door, the puppy wriggled free enough to lick her muzzle. Only then did she stop fighting the carry. Inside, the cabin smelled of cold iron, old wood smoke, machine oil, and the loneliness Travis had stopped noticing because it had no new shape. He kicked the door shut against the wind, set the puppy near the stove, and lowered the mother onto a folded moving blanket beside the hearth. The fire was out. He had not expected company, and he had not expected mercy to require kindling. He moved fast but not frantic, lighting the stove, pulling towels from a cupboard, filling a dented bowl with water, then finding the red metal first aid kit under the workbench where he kept it beside fuses and spare belts. The puppy drank first. He approached the bowl the way very young animals approach the world, wanting to live more than he wanted to be careful. He lapped water until his small sides moved with the effort, then sneezed, startled by himself. Travis almost smiled. "Almost. Easy, Pip," he murmured before realizing he had named the puppy without asking permission from the night. The name fit anyway, small, sharp, alive. The puppy looked up at the sound and wagged once, uncertain but willing. The mother dog watched all of it without softening. When Travis slid the water closer to her, she did not drink. When he reached for the torn edge of his jacket near her shoulder, she bared her teeth. He withdrew at once. "You set the terms?" he said. "I'm just trying to keep you breathing." He waited. The stove caught, flame licking through dry pine, and warmth slowly began to press back against the room. Snow struck the windows in hard grainy waves. Tools hung from hooks along one wall, wrenches, clamps, a coil of tow chain, a pry bar cleaned and leaned in the corner, all the instruments of a man who understood metal better than conversation. The puppy, Pip now whether Travis meant it or not, wandered between him and the mother, nose twitching. He sniffed Travis's knee, then went back to her. He touched her cheek. He came back again. A foolish little bridge, Travis thought. Brave because he had not yet learned how badly bridges could burn. The first wound Travis cleaned was not the worst one. That was deliberate. He started with a shallow bite along the front leg where the mother could watch his hand and judge the pressure. He moved with gauze, warm water, and a patience that made his back ache. The dog growled throughout, but she did not snap until he shifted too near her ribs. Then her head whipped toward him, teeth closing on air where his wrist had been. Pip yelped. Travis froze, not angry, not afraid exactly, but reminded. There, he said again. That one hurts. He took a breath and looked more carefully. The fresh damage was bad enough: punctures near the shoulder, torn skin along the flank, swelling at the hind leg where she had taken the pack's weight and refused to fall. But beneath the new wounds were older stories. Around her neck, under the torn collar, the fur had been rubbed thin in a precise band. Not the irregular wear of a normal collar. Narrower. Harsher. Repeated. There was another pressure mark across the upper shoulder, angled as if a strap had pulled hard against her while she fought. Travis parted the fur with 2 fingers and felt his jaw tighten. He had seen restraint marks before on men, on wrists, on ankles, on skin that remembered rope long after rope was gone. Seeing something similar on a dog made the cabin feel smaller. The mother dog watched his face as he saw it, and for a strange second he wondered if she understood recognition. Not pity. Recognition. That was different. You weren't just out there, he said softly. Somebody had you. The dog's growl thinned but did not stop. Pip pressed under her chin and looked back at Travis as though the words mattered even if their meaning did not. Travis cut away the ruined remains of the collar only where it pulled at the wound, leaving the twisted metal tag untouched for the moment. He did not want to turn her head more than necessary. The tag had dried snow and matted fur over it, but part of the stamping showed when the firelight hit, NPT 47. The letter sat in his mind without a place to go. Not a name. Not a phone number. Not a county license tag he recognized. Something coded. Something meant for a system, not a family. He set that thought aside because thoughts did not stop bleeding. Work did. An hour passed in pieces. Warm cloth. Gauze. Pressure. A strip of clean towel tied carefully enough not to cut circulation. More wood in the stove. Pip trying to climb into Travis's lap while Travis opened antiseptic. The mother dog flinching every time a bottle clicked or tape tore. That flinch was what got to him. The bites had made her dangerous. The sounds made her afraid. Metal cap. Plastic snap. Adhesive pull. Each ordinary noise moved through her like a remembered command. Travis began announcing every action in a low voice, not because dogs understood sentences, but because silence had once been used against her. Water now. Bandage. Not touching the leg yet. Just looking. He had spoken less to people at the diner in a month than he spoke to that dog in one night. It should have embarrassed him. It did not. When the bleeding slowed enough to risk a call, Travis reached for the old landline mounted near the refrigerator. Cell service died at the cabin whenever Weather had an opinion. He dialed from memory because everyone in Red Hollow knew the number of the only veterinarian willing to answer after dark. Dr. Lila Kearns picked up on the 5th ring, her voice rough with sleep but awake beneath it. If this is about a calving problem, call Mason first. It's Travis Bellamy. Then it's not a calving problem. Her tone changed, not warmer exactly, but focused. Lila was the sort of woman whose kindness arrived wearing work gloves. Mid-40s, steady hands, eyes that miss very little. She had patched up barn cats, police dogs, half-frozen strays, and once Travis's own palm when a generator belt took skin with it. She did not ask unnecessary questions. He told her what he had: adult female German Shepherd, multiple bites, possible shock, old restraint marks, puppy present, storm blocking the road. The line crackled. Wind struck the wall hard enough to shake snow from the eaves. Lila went quiet just long enough to sort the facts. Do not let her stand if you can help it, she said. Keep her warm, but don't cook her. Check her gums. Pale means trouble. Press the wounds if they reopen. If she starts panting hard without moving, call again. If she loses consciousness, you call and keep calling until I pick up. Travis looked toward the dog. Her eyes were still open, fixed on him. There are marks on her neck, he said. Old ones? Like something tightened there. Lila's voice lowered. Take pictures when it's safe. Don't force her. And Travis? Yeah. If she doesn't trust your hands, don't make her. Work around the trust you have. Even if the trust belongs to the puppy. After the call, the cabin changed its rhythm. It became less like rescue and more like waiting beside a fragile line. Pip finally slept, curled against his mother's chest, his paws twitching now and then as if running through dreams too small to name. The mother did not sleep. Travis sat on the floor a few feet away, back against the cabinet, one knee raised, the first aid kit open beside him. Every so often he checked her gums, the bandage, the rise of her breathing. She endured him with a suspicion so disciplined it almost felt like courage. Past midnight the storm deepened. The windows went white. The trees vanished. Then, underneath the wind, came a sound so faint Travis thought at first it was memory, a diesel engine laboring somewhere beyond the road. Not close. Not on his property. But real enough that the mother dog's head came up before his did. Her whole body locked. Pip woke with a sharp bark, then another, hoarse and frightened. The mother was not looking at the woods. She was looking toward the direction of the county road, toward the old gas station miles back through snow and darkness. Her lips pulled tight, not in threat toward Travis, but in recognition of something beyond the walls. The engine sound faded, swallowed by the storm, but she kept staring. Travis stood slowly and crossed to the window. There was nothing to see except his own reflection and the stove behind him. Still, the skin along his arms prickled. Hunger did not drive Diesel. Feral dogs did not leave coded tags. He went back to the blanket, crouched low, and finally brushed the last crust of snow away from the bent metal tag without moving her neck more than a fraction. The stamping was clearer now, NPT 47. Beneath it, maybe part of another number, scraped nearly smooth. The mother dog watched him read it. Pip pressed against her side and shivered. Travis closed his hand around the tag for 1 second, not pulling, only feeling the cold metal between his fingers. "That's what you ran from," he said. Outside, the storm covered the road as if trying to erase every track before morning. Inside, Travis understood that the pack at the gas station had only been the danger he could see. The thing this dog feared had an engine, a system, and a reason to come looking. Morning did not bring clear weather so much as a smaller version of the storm. The wind had dropped, but the world outside Travis Bellamy's cabin remained half erased, the trees bent under white weight, the driveway buried to the hubs of his pickup, and the county road beyond the pines hidden beneath a crust that would break under tires if a man trusted it too much. Inside, the stove had burned down to red coals. Sable was still alive. That fact sat in the room with more force than comfort. She lay on the folded blanket near the hearth, her bandaged shoulder rising and falling, her eyes open whenever Travis moved. Pip had slept against her through the last part of the night, waking only to whimper and paw at dreams that made his legs twitch. Travis had slept nowhere. He had sat on the floor until dawn, listening to the wind and to the uneven breathing of a dog who seemed determined to survive by suspicion alone. When the first gray light reached the window, he took the pictures Dr. Lila Kearns had asked for, the worn ring around Sable's neck, the pressure mark across her upper shoulder, the torn collar, the bent metal tag with NPT 47 stamped into it, and the small scrape along Pip's chest where he had likely fought his way out of something tight. He did not like pointing a camera at suffering, but Lila had been clear. Evidence disappeared under fur, swelling, heat, and time. "I'm not doing this to you," he told Sable as she watched the phone in his hand. "I'm doing it because someone else did." Her eyes did not soften, but she did not bare her teeth. That was progress by the smallest possible measure. By mid-morning, the plow had made one pass along the county road, and Lila called to say she had opened the clinic for emergencies. Travis could bring the dogs if he moved slow and kept Sable flat, or he could wait until she could reach the cabin later in the day. Waiting felt safer for Sable's body and worse for everything else. The tag on her collar had become heavier in Travis's mind with every hour. If it meant nothing, he could let it go. If it meant something, time was already helping the wrong people. He loaded Sable with the care of a man moving a cracked engine block he could not replace, settling her on blankets in the back seat, Pip pressed against her belly. She growled once when the door shut, not at Travis, but at the sound itself. A vehicle door closing. A metal latch. Pip answered with a thin bark, and Travis stood in the snow for a moment with one hand on the truck roof, feeling the shape of that reaction settle into him. "I heard it too," he said, though what he had heard was not the sound, but the memory behind it. Red Hollow looked smaller after a storm. Snow narrowed the streets, covered the signs, softened the old brick fronts until the town seemed less built than dug out. Travis parked outside Harlan's diner because the clinic sat 3 doors down, and because coffee was sometimes a way to enter a conversation without admitting that was why a man had come. Otis Harlan stood behind the counter in a faded cap and a coffee-stained apron, thin as a fence rail and twice as watchful. His diner had been there longer than half the county's marriages, and Otis treated every face that came through the door as both customer and evidence. "Generator quit on the dairy again?" he asked as Travis stepped in, shaking snow from his boots. "Generator's fine." Travis held up his phone. "You ever seen a tag marked NPT?" Otis's expression changed before he answered. Not dramatically. Just enough that Travis knew the old man had put the question somewhere it belonged. "Why?" "Found it on a dog." "What kind?" "German Shepherd. Female. Hurt. Puppy with her." Otis looked toward the front window, toward the snow-packed street, and the road beyond it. He poured coffee without asking and pushed the mug across. "That old gas station out by County 9? Travis did not answer fast enough. Otis nodded to himself. "Thought so." The story came out in pieces because Otis was the kind of man who circled pain before stepping on it. A Rottweiler from a farm south of town had vanished 3 weeks earlier. 2 huskies from a sled kennel went missing during a wideout, though the gate had been latched afterward. A pair of young shepherd mixes disappeared from behind a machine shop. Not dead, not found, not seen by hunters, not taken by wolves as far as anyone could prove. "Folks say weather," Otis said, wiping the counter with a rag that had long ago stopped improving anything. "Weather gets blamed for everything up here. Bad roads. Bad knees. Bad marriages. Missing dogs." He paused, then reached under the register and took out a small spiral notebook. It was warped from steam and years of being handled by hands that smelled of bacon grease and dish soap. "But weather doesn't drive a white box truck with no logo past houses that own good dogs." Travis looked at the notebook. Dates. Roads. Descriptions. Not official, but careful. "You wrote plates down?" "When I could see them. Usually couldn't. Snow, mud, covered numbers. Once I saw the letters NPT on paperwork a man left under his coffee cup." Otis tapped the page with one blunt finger. "Northline Pet Transit. Clean truck. Clean coat. Nice voice. Too nice if you asked me." Travis felt the code on the tag click against the first hard edge of meaning. "You tell the sheriff's office?" "Told Pike." She listened. Others smiled. Otis's face lost its diner softness for a second. "My old dog went missing last winter. 12 years old. Bad hips. Not worth stealing, you'd think. But he vanished near that same station after I saw a truck parked there before dawn." His mouth tightened. "So I write things down now." Deputy Laurel Pike did not smile when Travis walked into the small sheriff's office 10 minutes later, which was 1 point in her favor. She was in her early 40s, compact and solid in a dark winter uniform, with a weather-reddened face, gray-green eyes, and the stillness of someone who did not waste movement because she had learned how quickly a room could change. One glove was tucked under her belt. She wrote with her bare hand despite the cold draft near the door. Otis had called ahead, apparently because her first words were, "Show me the tag." Travis did. He showed her the photographs too, and the notes he had taken from Lila's instructions. Laurel studied them without performing sympathy. That also counted in her favor. "Where are the dogs now?" "In my truck. Heat on. Clinic's next." "You moved an injured dog before a vet looked at her." "I called the vet. She told me how." Laurel looked up, measured him, then looked back at the tag. NPT could be Northline Pet Transit. Otis said the same. Otis says a lot of things. Doesn't mean he's wrong. For the first time, the corner of her mouth shifted. Not amusement. Recognition of an answer that did not bend. Laurel opened a drawer and pulled out a thin folder, then hesitated before laying it on the desk. This is not public. I didn't ask for public. You're asking with your face. Travis said nothing. She let out a breath and turned the folder just enough for him to see lines of reports, not names. Missing dogs. Large breeds. Bad weather windows. Roads without cameras. A few reports involve calls from people claiming to be with animal transport or rescue services. One name appeared twice in notes, but not charges. Vern Maddox, owner of Northline Pet Transit. Laurel tapped the paper. He has valid business registration. Clean enough inspection record. Helps with winter animal transport when shelters overflow. Donated crates after the flood 2 years back. People trust a man who arrives with blankets and a clipboard. You trust him? I trust evidence. Her eyes moved to the photo of Sable's neck. And I don't have enough. Travis understood then why her voice carried irritation under control. She had not ignored the missing dogs. She had been standing in front of a locked door without the key. At the clinic, Lila Kearns met them in the side bay with the overhead door open just high enough for Travis to back in out of the wind. In person, she looked exactly as her voice had sounded, tired, precise, and kind only after the work had been named. Her dark blonde hair was tied back under a knit cap, her parka half zipped over blue-gray scrubs, and a small penlight was clipped at her collar. She did not coo at Sable. She let the dog smell her glove, watched the eyes, the ears, the line of muscle along the back. She's guarding the pup and guarding herself, Lila said. We respect both. Laurel stood back, silent now, while Lila examined the wounds with Travis keeping Pip near Sable's face. The fresh bites matched a pack attack. The older marks did not. This is restraint wear, Lila said finally, pointing without pressing. Repeated pressure. Not one bad collar. See the angle here? Something pulled upward and back. Catch pull or transport lead maybe. And this shoulder mark could be from bracing against a crate door. She checked Pip next, gentle but firm. Scrapes along the chest and forelegs. He tried to squeeze through something narrow. Could they have escaped a vehicle? Laurel asked. Lila looked at the tag, then at Sable, who had begun to tremble at the sound of a metal kennel door closing somewhere in the back room. I'd say they escaped confinement. Vehicle, trailer, temporary holding. I can't swear which yet. She lowered her voice. There's also a faint sedative response. Not drugged now, but recently enough that I'd want blood work if she were stable enough. Laurel's face closed around the words. Travis felt something colder than weather move through him. They stood in the clinic bay afterward, 3 people and 2 dogs surrounded by the smell of antiseptic, wet fur, and snowmelt. Laurel held the bent tag in an evidence sleeve now, though she had not taken it from Sable until Lila cut the remaining collar away safely. This still doesn't give me Vern Maddox in a trailer with stolen dogs, she said. The words were hard, but they were not dismissive. They were lost speaking through frustration. It gives you a dog that may have escaped from his system, Travis said. Maybe. And if he knows she got loose? Laurel looked through the bay door toward the white street. Then he may come back for what connects him to her. Pip pressed his small body against Sable's front leg. Sable's eyes were open, fixed not on Travis now, not on Laurel, but on the sound of a truck passing somewhere beyond the clinic wall. Her injured body stayed down. Her fear did not. Laurel saw it too. Travis could tell by the way the deputy stopped moving. For a moment nobody spoke. Outside, Red Hollow went on pretending the storm had ended. Inside, the only living witness to whatever had happened near the old gas station lay on a blanket, breathing through pain, watching every door as if the men who had taken her might already be turning back. Laurel Pike did not begin with Vern Maddox's name again. She began with a map. After Lila finished stabilizing Sable enough for transport, and warned Travis twice not to mistake consciousness for strength, Laurel led him into the back room of the sheriff's office where the public did not come unless something had already gone wrong. The room was narrow, overlit, and too warm from an old wall heater ticking beneath a bulletin board. On the table lay Red Hollow and the surrounding county in paper form, road maps, storm routes, farm lanes, kennel addresses, missing dog reports, and small pencil marks where somebody had seen a white box truck during bad weather. Travis stood with his hands tucked into the pockets of his canvas jacket and looked at the pattern before Laurel told him what it meant. He had seen maps like this before in another life, though those had been marked for supply roads, ambush points, and evacuation corridors. This map was quieter, but not gentler. Each mark was a house where a dog had vanished, a driveway where tracks had been snowed over, a gate found latched after the animal was gone. "This is why I don't like guessing," Laurel said. She stood beside the table, one hip against the edge, hair still damp at the temples from melted snow, her uniform jacket open just enough to show the radio clipped under it. "Guessing makes people feel useful before they are." Travis looked at the notes. "And evidence makes them wait. Evidence keeps the right man from walking because we got angry too early." She tapped one of the marks near the old gas station. "Vern Maddox knows that better than most." Only then did she slide a brochure across the table. It showed a clean navy blue logo, a smiling Labrador in a travel crate, and the words Northline Pet Transit printed in calm white letters. Under that was a promise about safe winter transport, emergency animal relocation, and humane care across state lines. The man in the brochure stood beside a spotless truck wearing a navy jacket with the same logo stitched over the chest. Vern Maddox was not ugly, not rough, not the kind of man people instinctively crossed the street to avoid. He was 49 or so, broad but neat, hair combed back, face clean shaven, smile practiced until it looked almost natural. His eyes were the only part that failed the performance. They seemed to look at the camera the way a buyer looked at inventory. "That's him?" Travis asked. "That's who people see," Laurel said. "Friendly transporter. Helpful in a blizzard. Donates old crates to shelters when he wants a quote in the paper. Knows the names of every widow with a purebred dog and every farmer who leaves a working dog in an unlocked mudroom." Travis did not touch the brochure. "How does he get close?" Laurel turned a page in the folder. "Sometimes by offering help. Sometimes by pretending a dog was reported loose. Sometimes by calling ahead as a rescue volunteer checking on animals before a storm. People answer questions when the questions sound kind." The room went quiet around that sentence. Travis thought of Pip putting both paws on his boot in the snow. He thought of Sable flinching at the snap of tape. Kindness as a tool. It made something in him go still. Laurel did not make Vern into a monster for Travis's benefit. That was part of what made the explanation worse. She laid out the gray pieces, one by one. Northline Pet Transit had a business registration. Vern had invoices. Some of the dogs he moved were legitimate. A shelter 2 counties over had hired him during a flood season. A veterinarian once signed off on a transfer without realizing the intake form had been altered later. When owners complained, Vern produced paperwork showing a stray hold, an emergency surrender, a transport request, or a claim that the animal had been found without identification. He stayed close enough to legality that people doubted themselves before they doubted him. "He doesn't steal every dog he sees," Laurel said. "That would be easy. He watches. He asks. He takes the ones with value, or the ones nobody can prove he touched. Large breeds. Working lines. Dogs with papers. Dogs without papers but with the right look. If a family raises hell, he says it must have been wolves, weather, or a runaway. If they have no camera, what do they have?" Travis knew the answer. Grief, mostly. And grief did not hold up well in court. "Why the old station? I think it's a handoff point." Laurel moved one finger along County 9 to the abandoned Sinclair station. "Not the main holding place. Too exposed if someone looks hard. But good for temporary stops. Road curves behind it. Old storage building blocks the view from the highway. No working lights. During a storm, tracks vanish by morning. Sable got loose there. Maybe before the stop. Maybe during one. Maybe from a trailer. Laurel paused, then looked at him directly. And if Vern realizes that tag stayed with her, he'll want it back. You have the tag now. He doesn't know that. Travis's eyes sharpened. No. Laurel waited. She was smart enough not to pretend she did not understand. I'm not putting her in front of him. Neither am I. The voice came from the doorway. Lila Curran stood there with her parka unzipped over scrubs, a roll of medical tape still in one hand and fatigue under both eyes. She had the look of someone who had been gentle for too many hours and was ready to become difficult if anyone required it. If this plan involves making that dog perform fear for a camera, it ends now. Laurel did not bristle, which told Travis this argument had been expected. It doesn't. Good. Lila stepped in anyway. She's shocky, injured, and running on maternal panic. Her body has already paid for more than one escape. Whatever she knows, she is not evidence you'd get to spend. Travis looked at the map because looking at Lila would have shown too much agreement. Laurel folded her arms. I need him to come back to the station. I need him on camera looking for something. I need his voice if he says something useful. I need a legal reason to stop him before a load crosses the state line. Lila's jaw set. Then get it without dangling a wounded dog. That's the plan. Laurel turned to Travis. You go back like you lost something in the rescue. Tool bag. Jacket. Doesn't matter. We place cameras near the storage building and an audio recorder inside the old office if we can get the door open. Pip stays in your truck. Sable stays in the cab, covered, warm, and out of direct view. If she reacts to a vehicle or a voice, that helps us. But nobody uses her to draw him closer. And if he doesn't come? Travis asked. Then we keep watching. Laurel said it like patience tasted bad but had to be swallowed. But if he's moving dogs tonight, he may not wait. Weather gives him cover. The tag gives him risk. That combination may make him careless. Travis looked at the map again. The old station sat at the center of too many marks. Not proof. Not yet. But close enough that an action had weight now, too. Pip doesn't leave the truck. No, Lila said. Sable doesn't leave the truck. No, Laurel said. Travis nodded once. Then I'll drive. The hours before evening passed in practical, tense pieces. That was the strange mercy of work, it gave fear something to hold. Lila changed Sable's bandages and gave Travis clear instructions for the next 12 hours. Warmth, water, quiet, no unnecessary movement. Pip ate half a bowl of softened food, then tried to carry one piece to his mother and dropped it on the blanket with solemn importance. Sable sniffed it but did not eat until Travis turned away. He noticed without letting her see him notice. That became the new rule between them, allow dignity wherever possible. She no longer growled when he set water near her, but her eyes followed his hands as if hands were weather, capable of changing without warning. Pip, on the other hand, had decided Travis belonged to the small circle of things worth trusting. He followed him from clinic bay to truck door, stumbling once over his own paws, then recovering as if nothing embarrassing had happened. Laurel watched the puppy with a frown that was not dislike. That one's going to make this harder. He already did, Travis said. Lila handed him a folded blanket. That may be why any of us are doing it right. By late afternoon the light had flattened again, turning the snowfields beyond town into gray metal. Laurel gathered only 2 deputies for the operation, both experienced enough not to crowd the scene, and kept the rest on standby. Too many vehicles would scare Vern off. Too few could let him run. She gave instructions without drama: no contact unless probable cause developed, record everything, keep the access road watched, do not turn the station into a shooting gallery over dogs unless human life was threatened. Travis respected that more than he expected. Anger made men sloppy. Laurel's anger had been filed down into procedure. They returned to the old gas station just before dusk. The place looked different in the failing light, less like a ruin and more like something waiting to be used again. Snow had softened the violence from the night before, but Travis could still see where the pack had circled, where his flare had burned down, where his own boots had stamped a path between fear and decision. Laurel parked her cruiser behind a stand of spruce down the road. One deputy slipped toward the far side of the storage building to place a camera under the broken eave. Another set a small recorder inside the old office after Travis forced the warped door with a flat pry tool. Nothing about it felt heroic. It felt cold, awkward, and necessary. Travis left his pickup near the pumps with the engine running low and the heater on. Pip sat on the rear seat, wrapped in a blanket, ears uneven and eyes too bright. Sable lay beside him, mostly hidden by the dark blanket Lila had insisted on, but her head remained up. She had not slept since town. Maybe longer. Travis stood beside the open driver's door and pretended to search the floorboard for a missing tool. The wind moved across the lot, lifting fine snow into brief ghosts. Laurel's voice came through the small earpiece she had given him. Camera 1 is live. Audio is live. Stay natural. Travis almost laughed. Natural was a lot to ask of a man standing in a trap built out of an abandoned gas station and a wounded dog's memory. He shut the truck door gently. The sound made Pip flinch. Sable did not move. For a moment Travis thought the plan had arrived too late, that Vern was smarter than risk, that the storm would swallow the evening and leave them with nothing but colder suspicion. Then Sable's body changed. It happened before any engine reached Travis's ears. Her head lifted sharply. Her nostrils widened. The low growl that came from her did not belong to pain or confusion. Pip stood, front paws braced on the seat, and gave one small, broken bark toward the service road behind the station. Travis turned his head only slightly, careful not to ruin the camera angle. Beyond the storage building, somewhere inside the deepening gray, a diesel engine moved slow through the snow. Laurel's voice came into his ear, lower now. Travis! Hold position! Sable's eyes locked on the darkness behind the station. She had recognized the sound long before the humans had proof. The old gas station looked farther from town after dark than it had any right to be. By map it was only 7 miles north of Red Hollow, a dead business on a secondary road that plow crews cleared when they had time and forgot when they did not. But that evening, with snow crossing the lot in hard silver sheets, and the tree line pressing close behind the storage building, the station felt like a place the county had quietly surrendered. Travis Bellamy stood beside his pickup with the hood half raised, one shoulder turned to the wind, pretending to work at a tow strap that did not need working. His hands moved because stillness looked wrong on camera. His mind stayed on the cab behind him, where Pip lay bundled in a wool blanket on the rear seat and Sable rested low against the opposite door, mostly hidden beneath the dark cover Dr. Lila had insisted on. Lila's instructions had been clear enough to leave no room for improvisation. Keep the mother dog warm, keep her still, do not make her perform fear for anyone's case. Travis had repeated those words to himself all the way out from town. They helped. Not enough, but some. The storm made every part of the plan less certain. One of Laurel's small cameras had already iced along the outer casing, and the deputy hiding beyond the storage building had to wipe the lens twice before disappearing back into the shadow of the broken service bay. Another deputy lay tucked near the road bend south of the lot, watching the narrow way out. Laurel herself was somewhere beyond the pumps, behind the stand of spruce where her cruiser sat dark and buried enough to look abandoned. Her voice came through Travis's earpiece in brief controlled pieces. North approach empty. South unit set. Audio recorder live. Don't push conversation if he shows. Travis looked like a man searching a truck bed. Inside, he felt the pressure of the dogs breathing like a second weather system. Pip gave one small whine when a loose strip of metal on the canopy snapped in the wind. Sable did not react to that. Her eyes stayed fixed toward the service road behind the station. She had heard something before any of them had, and since then she had not looked away. Travis did not turn his head too obviously. The cameras needed Vern Maddox, not Travis, announcing that the trap was awake. Then the sound came clear enough for human ears, a diesel engine moving slowly, without hurry, from the back road where no honest traveler should have been in that weather. It did not rush through the snow. It felt its way forward, patient and familiar, as if the driver knew every rut beneath the fresh white. Laurel's voice lowered in his ear. Vehicle entering from the rear service road. No high beams. Hold. Travis bent over the tow strap again and made his hand unclench. The white truck appeared first as a moving absence between the trees, a pale box shape with its headlights dimmed and its running lights half obscured by snow. It came around the rear of the storage building and rolled into the lot with the unmarked cleanliness Otis Harlan had described, though no vehicle stayed clean for long in Red Hollow winter. Behind it, barely visible in the storm, was a short enclosed trailer, its sides dull gray beneath frozen road spray. Travis heard it before he saw it fully, a faint metallic shifting, not loud enough to be proof, too alive to be cargo. The truck stopped 20 yards away. For a moment nobody got out. The engine idled low. Exhaust drifted across the lot, flattening under the wind. Pip stood up in the rear seat and barked once, sharp and frightened. Sable's growl began so deep it seemed less a sound than a vibration through the cab. The driver's door opened. Vern Maddox stepped down with one gloved hand on the frame, careful of the ice, as neat in the storm as a man stepping into a parking lot after church. He wore a navy winter jacket with the Northline Pet Transit logo stitched over the chest, black gloves, dark outdoor pants, and boots too new for the work he claimed to do. He was broad without looking rough, clean-shaven, hair combed back under a knit cap, face arranged into easy concern before he even spoke. The smile reached his mouth quickly and stopped before his eyes. "Evening," he called, voice carrying warmth across the wind. "Rough night to be having truck trouble." Travis straightened slowly, leaving the tow strap in his hand. "Not trouble. Lost something here last night." Vern glanced at the open hood, then at the gas station, then at the snow near the service wall where the wind had already softened most of the tracks. "Out here? Had to stop. Most folks try not to." Vern took 2 steps closer, but not too close. Men like him understood distance the way salesmen and predators did. "I run animal transport through this corridor sometimes. Name's Vern Maddox. Northline Pet Transit. You missing a dog?" Laurel said nothing in Travis's ear, but he could feel her listening. "Found one," Travis said. Vern's expression changed by less than a breath. "That's so? 2, actually. Lucky dogs." Vern looked toward the cab then, casually enough that any courtroom might call it concern. Pip barked again from inside. The blanket over Sable shifted. Vern's eyes sharpened. He recovered almost at once, but Travis had spent too many years watching men recover from mistakes to miss the mistake itself. "You want me to take a look?" Vern asked. "I've got crates, scanners, paperwork. If they're lost, I may be able to trace where they belong. They're hurt. All the more reason to get them properly handled." His smile softened into something almost mournful. "People mean well, but frightened animals need the right equipment." Travis let the silence stretch. Snow hissed against the truck's hood. "You recognize them?" he asked. Vern gave a small laugh, not amused, only polished. "Hard to recognize what I haven't seen." But his eyes slid back to the rear window, where Pip's uneven ears and bright frightened face were visible above the blanket. Sable lifted her head behind the darker cover, and for 1 second the light from Vern's truck touched her eyes. Vern did not step back. He said quietly, almost to himself, 47 made it farther than I thought." The words disappeared quickly into the wind, but not quickly enough. Travis felt them land. Through the earpiece, Laurel's voice came in a whisper as hard as ice. "We have audio. Keep him talking." Travis kept his face empty. 47? Vern's gaze returned to him, and the smile came back half a second late. "Road marker. County 47. Lots of animals get confused around these back routes. That road's 9. Is it?" Vern shrugged as if roads were unimportant to a man whose truck had just come precisely from the one hidden behind the station. From inside the pickup, Sable's growl rose. It was not the warning she had given Travis in the cabin. This was recognition sharpened by hatred. Pip barked again and clawed once at the seat. Vern heard it and looked annoyed before he remembered to look concerned. That was the second mistake. Travis shifted his stance, placing his body between Vern and the truck door without making the movement obvious. "You said you have scanners," he said. "In the truck?" "Among other things. Funny thing. Dog I found had a tag." Vern's face remained still. His eyes did not. "Most do. Bent metal. NPT on it." The friendly mask thinned. Not dropped. Thinned. "You should have called the number on the paperwork." "There wasn't paperwork." Vern looked past Travis again, this time toward the ground near the storage building. He was not searching for dogs. He was searching for what the night might have left behind. That was when the plan began to crack. The accomplice came from the trailer's side, not the driver's side. Travis saw only a bulky shape in a gray coat moving behind Vern's truck, head down against the snow, one hand near the trailer latch. The man should have stayed hidden if he had been smart. Panic made him visible. He froze suddenly, staring at the broken eave above the old office where one of Laurel's cameras sat under a crust of snow. His face turned toward Vern. "Cam," he snapped. One word. "Enough." Laurel's voice cut into Travis's ear. "Move. Move now." Vern's pleasant expression vanished, not into fear but calculation. "That yours?" he asked Travis. Travis did not answer. The accomplice lunged for the truck cap. Vern stepped backward toward the passenger side, one hand disappearing under his jacket. Not a gun, Travis thought immediately. The shape was wrong. Maybe keys, maybe a phone, maybe something to cut or trigger. He did not wait to find out. "Sheriff's office!" Laurel's voice tore across the lot from the trees. "Hands visible!" The accomplice ignored her and slammed into the driver's seat. The white truck lurched before the door was fully closed. The trailer snapped forward with a metallic jerk, and from inside came the sound that changed the night completely. Dogs barking, not one or two, but many, trapped voices ricocheting off metal walls. Pip went wild in the cab. Sable struggled under the blanket, body trying to rise though pain should have pinned her down. Travis opened his own truck door just enough to make sure the dogs were secured, then threw himself behind the wheel. The white truck surged toward the rear service road, but the storm and the trailer made it slow. Laurel's cruiser lights exploded blue and red from the spruce, but the snow shattered them into broken color. The deputy at the south road blocked the clean exit. The accomplice chose the icy lane behind the storage building instead, the one that sloped toward the ditch before curling back to the county road. If the trailer hit that downgrade wrong, it could roll. If it reached the road, the storm might swallow it in 5 minutes. Travis knew the ground better than the man driving. He had crossed it last night carrying Sable. He had seen the plowed berm, the broken concrete lip near the service lane, the way ice collected where the old drainage ditch ran under the snow. He did not ram the truck. That would have killed dogs. Instead he drove at an angle, cutting across the lot, tires biting, then sliding, then catching again. His pickup's rear end swung wide. He let it. The old truck fishtailed into the mouth of the lane, and stopped just crooked enough to block the trailer's turn without meeting it head-on. The white truck tried to swing around. The trailer wheels climbed the hidden concrete lip, bounced, and jackknifed it sideways into the drift. Metal screamed. Dogs cried out from inside. Travis's chest went cold. "Easy," he said, though no one could hear him. "Easy." The white truck's engine revved, then choked down. Laurel and one deputy closed from the far side, weapons low but ready, shouting commands that the wind tore apart. Vern had not been driving. He stood near the passenger side now, half lit by blue and red flashes, looking less like a rescuer and more like a man watching money spill through a broken fence. His accomplice shoved the truck door open and stumbled into the snow, hands raised only when he saw Laurel close enough to mean it. Travis left his pickup running and ran to the trailer. He did not open it wide. Not at first. He had enough sense left to know panicked dogs could bolt into the storm and die. But the impact had twisted the rear latch, leaving a narrow gap where one door had sprung loose. Through that gap, eyes reflected the emergency lights, dozens of them, low and high, amber, brown, pale with fear. Muzzles pushed toward the air. Metal crate doors rattled inside. A shepherd's bark cracked into a husky's howl, then into the raw chorus of animals too scared to understand rescue from another kind of capture. Behind him, his own pickup rocked once. Travis turned. Sable had forced herself upright in the rear seat. The blanket had fallen away from her shoulders. Her injured legs shook so badly she could barely hold weight, but she stood anyway, head high, ears uneven, eyes fixed on the trailer. Pip pressed beside her, barking not at Vern, not at Laurel, but toward the trapped dogs as if answering them. Sable made a sound Travis had not heard before. It was not a growl meant to warn him away. It was lower, older, full of recognition and grief. In the flashing snow, with the white truck trapped crooked in the service lane and Vern's mask finally beginning to tear, Travis understood that Sable had not only escaped that trailer. She remembered who had been left behind. For several seconds after the trailer jackknifed into the drift, the whole gas station lot seemed to hold its breath under the storm. The white truck's engine coughed and idled crookedly, its rear wheels half buried where the trailer had dragged them sideways. Blue and red light from Laurel Pike's cruiser broke apart in the snow, turning the old pumps, the sagging canopy, and the cracked concrete walls into a shaking field of color. Inside the trailer, dogs barked and struck metal with paws, bodies, teeth, fear. Travis Bellamy stood near the sprung rear door with one hand raised, not to stop a man, but to stop the panic from spilling into weather that would kill faster than cruelty admitted. The gap in the trailer was only a foot wide, but the dogs inside were already pushing toward it, desperate for air, light, anything that was not a box. Behind him, Laurel shouted commands through the wind. One deputy had Vern's accomplice on his knees in the snow, hands locked behind his head. Another moved toward the driver's side of the white truck, keeping distance, careful because corners made men stupid. Vern Maddox stood near the passenger door with both hands visible, but nothing about him looked defeated. That was the first thing Travis noticed. A man caught by surprise usually showed it somewhere, in the mouth, in the shoulders, in the eyes. Then showed irritation. He looked at the twisted trailer, at the flashing lights, at Travis, and then at the cracked door with the expression of a businessman watching product damaged in transit. "You need to close that before they injure themselves," Vern called, his voice still smooth enough to be mistaken for concern by anyone who had not heard him call Sable 47. "Those animals are frightened. They need trained handling." Laurel came up from his left, winter hat low, one gloved hand on her sidearm and the other holding a flashlight that cut hard across Vern's jacket logo. "Step away from the truck, Deputy Pike," Brent said, almost warmly, as if greeting her outside the diner. "This is a misunderstanding made dangerous by amateur interference." His eyes flicked toward Travis. "I transport animals legally. You know that. Then you won't mind standing still while we sort out why you ran. My driver panicked because your people were hiding cameras on private property." Laurel did not move closer. She did not need to. "This property isn't yours." Vern's smile tightened. "No. But the animals are under my care." The word care struck the air with a rot Travis could almost smell. Inside his pickup, Pip barked until his voice cracked. Sable had forced herself upright again, the dark blanket fallen around her shoulders, her wounded leg trembling so violently that the truck seemed to shake with it. She stared at the trailer, not at Vern. That frightened Travis more than her anger had. A dog who hated a man still knew where the danger stood. Sable was hearing something deeper than the present. Vern saw the direction of her gaze and tried to use it. "That female is unstable," he said. "You can see it. She's injured, feral, dangerous around other dogs. I was trying to recover her before she hurt herself or someone else." Travis looked at him then. He had heard men build churches out of lies before, small lies mortared together into something high enough to stand under. Vern's voice had that same architecture. You called her 47. A temporary intake number. For a dog you said you didn't recognize. A flash of annoyance passed through Vern's eyes. Laurel caught it too. Keep talking, she said quietly, and for a second Travis knew she was not speaking to Vern, but to the evidence itself. Vern adjusted his gloves as if the conversation bored him. Do you know how many animals die up here because people think ownership is love? Left outside in storms. Fed garbage. Allowed to breed until they're sick. I move them to better places. Safer homes. People with resources. With forged transfer papers? Laurel asked. You'll want to be careful with that word. With dogs shoved into a trailer during a whiteout, Travis said. Vern's gaze slid to him, pitying now, or trying to be. You're sentimental because you found a hurt one. That doesn't make you useful. Good animals are wasted every day on people who can't see their value. He gestured toward the trailer. Somebody has to correct that. The cold in Travis changed shape. It became clear rather than hot. Men like Vern did not think of themselves as thieves. That was how they slept. They renamed wanting. They called cages stewardship, sale rescue, fear handling, obedience gratitude. Travis took one step toward him before he knew he had moved. Pip barked from the truck. Sable's growl lifted. Laurel's voice cut across the space, low but absolute. Travis. He stopped. Not because Vern did not deserve the step, but because the dogs did not deserve what anger would cost. Laurel kept her eyes on Vern. Hands where I can see them. Vern gave a soft laugh. Of course. Then he made his last move. It was not heroic. It was not even brave. It was the move of a man who understood other people's mercy and counted on it slowing them down. His right hand dropped fast, not toward a weapon, but toward a small remote clipped inside his jacket. A sharp chirp came from the trailer. One of the inner crate latches released with a metallic snap. The trailer door, already sprung from the jackknife, jolted wider as the weight inside shifted. 3 dogs burst into the narrow gap at once. 1 young shepherd mix, 1 red-coated hound, 1 rangy black dog with a cut across its muzzle. They hit the snow in a tangle of legs and terror, slipping, scrambling, blinded by strobes and wind. Laurel moved for Vern, but he lunged away toward the old storage building, using the chaos exactly as he meant to. The deputy nearest him turned, but the released dogs crossed his path and he stopped rather than trample them. Vern ran for the warped side door of the station office. Vern! Laurel shouted, and went after him. Travis did not. Every part of his body wanted to chase the man, but the dogs were scattering toward the road, toward the ditch, toward the open white where survival turned mathematical. He dropped to one knee in the snow and lowered his shoulders, making himself smaller. Easy, he said not loudly. Loud belonged to the storm. Easy. Come on. Not there. The hound bolted left. Travis shifted, not grabbing, only blocking with his body and one outstretched arm. The shepherd mix snapped at air near his glove. He did not pull back too fast. Fear like sudden movements. I know, he murmured. I know. The black dog tried to run past the bumper toward the road. Travis whistled once, low and sharp, then softened his voice immediately. Here. Here. It was absurd, kneeling in a blizzard in front of stolen dogs, speaking as if calm could be built quickly enough to matter. But calm was sometimes the only tool that did not break in the hand. Behind him, Sable made a strangled sound. Travis glanced back. She had turned her body between Pip and the open truck door, fighting pain to hold the line. Her eyes met his. She wanted to come. Everything in her was made to come. But she stayed. She stood over Pip, shaking, and gave Travis the thing she had refused him since the gas station, the right to act in her place. That trust hit harder than Vern's words. Travis turned back to the dogs and let it steady him. Good, he whispered, though he was not sure to whom. The hound stopped first, sides heaving, eyes white-rimmed. The shepherd mix crouched under the trailer tongue. The black dog lowered its head but did not run. One of the deputies understood and moved slowly to block the road without closing in. Another fetched slip leads from Laurel's cruiser. Nobody shouted at the dogs now. Even the storm seemed louder for the absence of human noise. Inside the trailer, the remaining dogs continued to bark and scrape, but the first wave had not vanished into the dark. That was enough. From the storage building came a crash, then Laurel's voice, then Vern's, sharper now, stripped of polish. Travis stayed with the dogs because leaving them would make the wrong thing true. A minute later Laurel dragged Vern out through the side door and down the short steps into the snow, one arm twisted behind him, her jaw set so hard the muscles stood out beneath her cheek. His neat hair had come loose under his cap. His face had finally changed. Not guilty. Offended. "This is unlawful restraint," he snapped. "You opened cages to create an emergency," Laurel said, breath hard in the cold. "You ran from a lawful stop. You transported animals under false documentation. Keep talking if you want. You have no idea what you're interrupting. I'm starting to." She cuffed him there, beside the same old building that had hidden too much for too long. The search of the storage building happened in layers, each one uglier than the last. Laurel would not let Travis enter first, and he did not argue. Deputies cleared the narrow rooms, then called Lila, then began photographing before anything was moved. The place had not been abandoned after all. It had only been made to look that way from the road. Behind warped plywood panels were stacked wire crates, folded tarps, a small heater, bags of cheap feed, plastic bowls, sedative vials, syringes, false transfer forms, and a clipboard listing buyers by state with dogs reduced to breed, sex, age, and price. A strip of metal tags lay in a drawer, several stamped with codes like the one Sable had carried. NPT 47 had an empty line beside it. Female GSD, high value, pup attached. Travis read those words once and did not read them again. Lila arrived with 2 volunteers from her clinic, her face pale with anger but her hands steady. She took charge of triage without ceremony, heads covered for the most panicked, water small and controlled, injured animals separated only when safe, no crowding, no celebrating while shock was still working its way through living bodies. The dogs from the trailer came out one crate at a time. Some trembled. Some growled. Some pressed forward as if the sight of snow were freedom and fear in equal measure. One old dog near the back could barely stand. He was gray around the muzzle, mixed breed, one ear folded from age or injury, ribs showing beneath a dull brown coat. When Lila's volunteer opened the crate, he stepped out slowly, ignored the people, and limped straight toward Travis's pickup. Sable saw him, and went still. Not tense. Still. The old dog lowered his head near the truck door, not submissive to humans, but to her. Sable touched her nose once to the glass, and the old dog closed his eyes as if something unfinished had found its answer. Travis watched, throat tight, understanding coming not as fact but as weight. Sable had not only dragged Pip out of that nightmare. At some point, maybe during the escape, maybe before it, she had stood for more than her own pup. She had been the mother shape in a place designed to strip every animal down to inventory. By the time Vern was placed in the back of Laurel's cruiser, the storm had begun to thin, though the cold sharpened behind it. No one cheered. No one clapped. The dogs were too frightened for victory to make sense, and the people who understood what they had found were too busy doing the next necessary thing. Laurel stood beside the open trailer, reading a warrant request into the radio with a voice that did not shake. Lila knelt over a sedated spaniel mix and told the deputy where to hold the blanket. Otis Harlan arrived without being asked, diner coat thrown over his apron, carrying towels and thermoses and looking older when he saw the crates. Travis stood by his truck with Pip finally quiet in the back seat and Sable still upright by Will alone. Her injured leg trembled. Her eyes followed the old dog being led toward Lila's triage area, then returned to Travis. There was no gratitude in them, not in the simple way people like to imagine animals offering gratitude. There was pain, exhaustion, suspicion not fully gone, and something else beginning under all of it. Recognition, maybe? Or permission. Travis put one hand lightly against the outside of the window, not touching her, not asking for more than she could give. "You did enough," he said. The old gas station stood behind them in the flashing light, no longer just a ruin, no longer just a place people drove past. It had been a mouth, swallowing what the town did not want to see. And Sable, wounded, terrified, stubborn Sable, had dragged the truth back out into the snow. Red Hollow did not celebrate the arrests like a town in a newspaper photograph. There were no banners, no cheering crowd outside the sheriff's office, no clean ending wrapped around the mess Vern Maddox had left behind. Morning came pale and hard over the old gas station, showing what the emergency lights had hidden in flashes the night before. The torn snow where tires had jackknifed, the muddy churn near the trailer, the blue tarp Laurel Pike's deputies had stretched across the storage room doorway, the rows of portable crates lined beneath the sagging canopy where fuel pumps had once stood. The dogs did not understand victory. Some trembled whenever a truck door shut. Some slept with their noses pressed into corners. Some growled at anyone who came too quickly, then leaned into the same hand minutes later because fear and hope had become tangled inside them. Dr. Lila Kearns moved among them with a clipboard tucked under one arm and a stethoscope hanging crooked around her neck, her voice low, practical, and tired enough to be trusted. Laurel worked the legal side without drama, making calls, logging evidence, arranging transport holds, and reminding anyone who said, "At least it's over," that nothing was over until every dog was identified, every document matched, every false transfer traced, and every charge made strong enough to survive Vern's lawyers. Travis Bellamy stayed out of the center of it. He carried water. He moved crates. He fixed the small propane heater that quit twice before noon. He cleared packed snow from the old office threshold so Lila would not slip while carrying a sedated shepherd mix. When a local reporter from a regional station arrived 2 days later with red cheeks, a camera operator, and a voice rehearsed for tragedy, Travis stepped behind the storage building before the microphone could find him. Laurel gave the official statement. Lila spoke about triage, shock, dehydration, and why frightened animals needed quiet more than cameras. Otis Harlan stood near the coffee urn he had dragged from the diner, and told anyone who would listen that towels mattered more than speeches. The people of Red Hollow came in slow waves after that. A farmer in his 60s broke down when a hound with a scarred muzzle recognized his whistle and crawled forward on weak legs. A woman who owned a repair shop stood in the snow for nearly 10 minutes with both hands over her mouth before she could touch the husky she had thought coyotes had taken. A retired mail carrier brought 3 photographs and left with only one dog, because the other 2 in the crates were not hers and wanting did not make them so. That was how the days went: relief, disappointment, paperwork, grief, gratitude, uncertainty. Some dogs had owners. Some had records that Vern's false paperwork had twisted until identity became an argument. Some had no one coming at all. Those were the ones Travis noticed most, though he tried not to. They watched the road whenever footsteps approached, and when no familiar voice arrived, they lowered their heads as if disappointment were a command they already knew. The old gas station changed because the need did not leave when the arrests did. Laurel got county permission to hold the property temporarily as evidence, an emergency shelter space. Otis called it practical before anyone called it kind. Lila said the dogs could not keep being moved from truck to clinic to barn and back again whenever a storm shifted. Someone donated plywood. Someone else brought straw. A retired electrician checked the old wiring and swore creatively for 20 minutes before telling Travis which parts would not burn the place down. Travis began coming every morning before sunrise, not because anyone had asked him to, but because the work was there and his hands knew what to do with work. He repaired the latch on the storage room door where Vern had run. He reinforced the cracked frame of the old office. He built a row of temporary kennels out of livestock panels, rubber mats, and scavenged lumber. He patched the roof where meltwater dripped into the first crate line. He replaced 2 broken lights beneath the canopy, then rewired them so they glowed warm instead of the dead bluish-white that made the dogs flinch. The station slowly stopped looking like a trap. It did not become beautiful. Beauty would have been too quick. It became useful, and useful was the first honest form of mercy Travis trusted. At night he returned to his cabin with his coat smelling of dogs, sawdust, and antiseptic, and for the first time in years the silence inside did not feel like a wall. It felt like something waiting for him to fill it correctly. Sable's recovery refused to turn into a miracle, and Travis was grateful for that in a way he could not explain. Miracles made people careless with truth. Her rear leg never came back clean. Lila said the damage had been made worse by the final strain of standing, escaping, guarding, surviving. "She'll carry it," Lila told him during one of the bandage changes, not unkindly. "But carrying is not the same as failing." Sable lay on a folded blanket near the stove, eyes open, Pip tucked against her belly, though he was growing less able to fit there every day. At first Sable tolerated Travis because exhaustion gave her little choice. Then tolerance became calculation. Then calculation became something quieter. The first time she allowed him to change the bandage without a growl, he pretended not to notice until he stepped outside and stood in the cold with one hand on the porch rail, breathing like he had just lifted something heavier than a dog's trust. The first time she slept while he remained in the room, Pip woke him by chewing softly on the lace of his boot, proud of himself and utterly unashamed. Pip grew the way puppies did when fear finally loosened its hand, unevenly, joyfully, and with no regard for furniture. One ear found the courage to stand most days. The other still folded when he ran too fast. He learned the path from stove to water bowl to porch to Travis's truck and treated each successful trip as if he had crossed a continent. He carried gloves, dropped them in inconvenient places, and once dragged one of Travis's wool socks into Sable's bed as an offering. Sable watched all of it with a tired patience that slowly lost its edge. She corrected him when he tumbled too close to her bad leg, but she no longer woke in panic every time wine struck the window. Sometimes she looked toward the road, but not always with fear. Sometimes only with memory. Winter went on. Vern's name appeared in court filings, in local news, in conversations at the diner that grew quieter when Travis entered because people did not know whether to thank him or leave him alone. Laurel handled the attention with the weary competence of a woman who had never trusted attention anyway. Lila handled the animals. Otis handled coffee, gossip, and donations with the solemnity of a church treasurer. Travis handled what was in front of him. When the county finally allowed the old station to be repurposed as a formal emergency shelter point for lost animals during winter storms, nobody asked who should fix the place. They simply looked at Travis, and he grunted in a way that meant yes without giving anyone the satisfaction of hearing it. By late winter, the new sign was ready. Otis had painted the letters himself on a sanded board, his hand not quite steady but his pride obvious: Storm Stop Animal Shelter. Laurel stood beside her cruiser when they hung it, arms folded, hat low, pretending the moment was administrative. Lila walked through the clean kennels with a checklist and only corrected 3 things, which everyone understood as praise. A few townspeople gathered with thermoses and leashes and dogs that had come home thinner, quieter, but alive. Travis stood on the porch beneath the repaired canopy, hands in his jacket pockets, uncomfortable with the sight of people looking at something he had helped build. Sable lay at his left side on a thick mat Lila had insisted would be easier on her leg. Pip charged through a shallow patch of softening snow, lost his footing, rolled once, then sprang back up as if falling were just another way of moving forward. A wind came down the service road behind the station, cold enough to lift powder from the ditch and send it whispering across the lot. Travis felt Sable's shift before he looked. Months earlier, that wind would have tightened every muscle in her body. It would have turned her eyes toward the road with the old terror, toward engine noise, metal doors, hands that took without asking. Now she raised her head, listened, and stayed. Pip ran back to her, panting, snow on his nose. Sable touched his ear with her muzzle, then looked up at Travis. No one else seemed to see the moment. Laurel was signing a county form on the hood of her cruiser. Lila was telling Otis that coffee was not a medical supply no matter how strongly he felt about it. The townspeople were looking at the sign. Only Travis saw Sable lift her head the rest of the way and place her muzzle, gently and deliberately, against the back of his hand. She did not lick him. She did not perform gratitude. She simply rested there, the weight of her trust small enough to miss and large enough to change a life. Travis looked down at her, then at Pip chasing his own crooked tracks across the snow, then at the station that had once been a mouth for bad things and now held warm light behind clean windows. He had thought, on that first night, that he had saved a mother and her pup from the storm. Standing there at winter's edge, he understood how little he had. Sometimes healing does not arrive like thunder. Sometimes it comes quietly, through a rescued life, a repaired door, a bowl of water, or a hand that chooses to stay gentle after the world has been cruel. Travis thought he was saving Sable and Pip from a storm, but in the end, they gave him something just as precious, a reason to care again. May this story remind us that no act of kindness is ever wasted, and that even the coldest places can become shelters when love is allowed to enter. If this story touched your heart, share your thoughts in the comments, tell us where you're watching from, and subscribe for more stories of courage, loyalty, and hope. May peace find you wherever you are tonight.